Fuck, dude. Okay. Yo, so first off, just like,
Yeah,
could you tell us your name and a lot of the work you do?
cool. So my name is Michael Moret. I am an actor. I studied at Collin College for a bit, where is how I met Brian Oliveira, who is a fantastic human that you guys know. And then I went to Texas State for BFA acting program. And then after that, I toured with the national tour of the American Shakespeare Center, and played the lead role of Tom Joad in Grapes of Wrath. And so the main things I do are like acting. I'm a playwright as well as a writer, and director. And then when I'm not doing the acting stuff, I rap and play the piano under the name Chaos Light. And so I had recently, like a year ago, put out a concept album about this character who dies and has to sort through his memories or the songs to develop a case on why he should go into the next world. And so it's like this rock, piano, hip hop, alternative rock album. It's definitely weird, but it's cool. And it's got scenes in between all of that. And so those are the camps I kind of float back and forth. Music and acting are the two main things that I try to float back and forth between.
Bro, yo, plug yourself. Where can we find you?
Oh yeah, please. My Spotify numbers are shit. So if you're in their shit because I don't promote it. So if you are into music, which you probably are, type in Chaos Light, Khaos Light, and Failure to Adapt is the name of the album, and I've got some singles there as well. And then if your Instagram is where I'm posting a lot of my stuff as well. So the Instagram handle is Michael, not just an actor. And to qualify that, a girl in my high school thought the name was cool. She made me the Instagram when I was in my sophomore year. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, I don't fucking care. And then I never changed it, and now people like it. So that's why I have that almost douchey name.
Cool. Yo, let's hop in. First off, have you seen the video of George Floyd's murder?
Um, uh, no, I think that I watched. So me as like a black dude, I've seen like a lot of folks die, and kind of the unfortunate thing for me in this is that like, for me this was just another person dying. Like this thing happens, and so when I was younger, I forced myself to watch it because like I was like I need to see, and but like I saw that another unarmed black person was killed by the cops, and I was like, yeah, I know that narrative. And so I didn't watch it originally.
How did? No. Yo, tell us about how you felt when you first found out that George Floyd was murdered.
Yeah, so it's kind of wild. This is story's a little involved, so I try to be as brief as I can. When it happened, I didn't think anything of it because people get killed often. I remember researching what suspicion of forgery meant because at the time when he was first killed, they were saying that the cops were answering a call of suspicion of forgery, and I thought like, oh, maybe suspicion of forgery means something different in cop language, and it means like this dangerous blah 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 blah. But looking up that it meant forgery, which is what we think the word is, counterfeit money, or counterfeit bills or counterfeit something. And to realize that, like, oh, like a guy got killed over like a counterfeit bill. And that kind of stayed in the back of my mind. And I was in Dallas at the time, and I started seeing that people were protesting and getting very angry, and I was like, oh, this is different. It seems like more than just us are protesting. But again, my mind didn't really realize how important the protests were. I just thought that like, oh, this is gonna make cops mad. And so I remember calling my girlfriend and sending her a voice memo and being like, hey, I'm driving 4 hours to Austin, and I just want to let you know that I love you and that if anything happens, because like that's what, me as an African American, I know that when I'm traveling, and and the police are angrier because of everything that's happening, my life is at risk. And so I wanted to make her know that I love her and stuff like that. But it was this very, very casual thing. And then I got home and I read an article from a playwright that I know. His name is TJ. And the article was called "How Do I Keep Going as a Black Man? Easy, I Prepare for Death." And in that article, he detailed how he has all of these safety precautions set up in case of his death by police. So that because that's what makes him comfortable, and that's what makes him okay to go to protest because he knows that all of his affairs are in order. And so then that started weighing heavily on my brain, and I started thinking about that on the drive. And then I got home and started looking at posts and realizing that like the protests were national and that a bunch of people were doing it and my friends were going to protest and what kind of when I realized that I had to start doing something is I saw that one of my friends, he's a Vietnamese and black, he had gotten shot at a protest and his whole leg. I mean, I'm sure we've seen, the effects of rubber bullets, but I hadn't at the time. I'm used to lethal means, so I didn't know that there were non-lethal means, and so the non-lethal mean that people were using, his whole leg was covered, and I like broke down in my car, and I was like, they're gonna kill my friends, and so I then started. Then it really hit me. Then I was like, oh, this is a big thing, and so my immediate call to action was like, I want to go to the protest. But then I was researching and finding out people were getting tear gassed, and pepper sprayed, and I have asthma, and I researched my life expectancy, if I encountered things like that, and it's incredibly limited. And so I'm like, fuck, like, is it brave to go out even at the risk of death, or stupid because you know how predisposed you are to being at risk, both being black and being asthmatic? And so then it became this thing of like, okay, well, I need to be doing something. So what is it that I'm going to be doing to kind of put myself in the fight? Because if there's people that don't look like me fighting this, then I'll be damn sure that I'm going to be doing something as well, because I was fighting this even before people were really rallying behind it. And so I realized I wanted to start educating people and opening myself up as a resource so that people could ask questions, because what I learned is that a lot of people want to be allies and want to be good, and I'm talking so much, and I promise I'm going to shut up. But a lot of people want to do good and help, but they're scared of doing the wrong thing or offending someone, or not saying the right thing. And so by opening myself up to be a resource, and to listen to people and listen to their questions, people then come to me and then run to go do the thing, because there's people that want to help, which was it was very healing for me to realize how much I'm not alone, because for me, I've always felt that it's been like me and my community that cares about this, and everybody else doesn't give a fuck. And this is the first time for me in recent years ever that I've ever felt this amount of care for instances like this, because people will say this, and it's true. This is not new. None of this is new. And so, but this response is new, and I think that's really great.
You touched on a lot of awesome things there. One of them specifically was safety precautions. Could you elaborate for us some of the safety precautions you do?
Oh yeah, so it's so number one, I have a will. It's still in the process because it's kind of hard to do, but I have a list of, here is all of my music categorized, here are all of my plays categorized. My girlfriend is the one that has all the copies of all of this. And I say, hey, we've had to have these very uncomfortable talks where I'm like, hey, if the events that I do something like this and I end up dying, like, this is the order I would like this to go out. I would like these people to have access to these properties. I don't want to work with these companies. Because I have a lot of stuff I've worked on, and knowing that is settled helps me. Also, me and my girlfriend have both decided that, like, when they arrest or the police show up, that I need to disappear. And when if there's any form of gas, anything, then I have to go. Because although I am a fighter and a protector, I can't fight tear gas, which is unfortunate. And protests are tough for me because I'm a protector at heart, and so I'm very, very pragmatic and logical. But when I see someone being mistreated in any way, physically or emotionally, all of that logic shit goes out the window. And so it's one of the reasons why my girlfriend has lovingly offered to not go to protests with me because by extension, she's like my kryptonite. Like if anything were to happen to her, then it's gone is the logical, calm, namaste meditation Michael, and that's the Michael we want to keep. And also, her body is she has EDS. It's a chronic illness, and so it's not good for her to go to protest either. So it kind of works out. And like it comes also down to like mask choice and clothes choice. You know, like my girlfriend got me we wanted to get me a stronger mask, but the masks makes me look more threatening, which could make me be perceived more as a threat, which could get me killed faster. So we opted to get me the mask that protects me less, but makes me look less of a threat, so that maybe I'll get shot less likely. And then sometimes it gets to clothes choice, and I kind of snap and like I'm like, listen, I'm gonna wear whatever the fuck I want because you have to draw a line somewhere in the terms of whittling yourself down to create a model version of yourself to present to police so that hopefully you have more likely of a chance not to get hurt. It's like this weird, stupid fucking mental gymnastics you have to do. But this is something that me and so many other black Americans have done for a long time. Me and my dad used to get, when Trayvon Martin was killed, me and my dad got into a lot of arguments because I would come home wearing a hoodie jacket because I like jackets, and he would be like, "Stop wearing that jacket," and I'd be like, "No," and he's like, "Well, people are getting killed, you know, looking like you because they're in hoodies," and I'm like, I'm an AB student, you know, I do this, I do that, which by the way shouldn't qualify why I should get killed or not get killed, but that's how my brain was working, which is like, I'm doing all of these things, I'm well spoken, I go to school, I don't cause trouble, and all of these things, and I should be able to wear whatever the fuck I want. And I was right, but my father was also right in the sense that, like, yeah, but people like you get killed for things, so can you please, like, adjust what you wear so that you are less likely to die because I don't want to lose a son. And we got into brutal fucking arguments where I was like, listen, if they're gonna fucking kill me and shoot me because of what I'm wearing, then let them fucking do it. But I'm not going to change what I wear and who I am to fit into this shit. And it sucks, and I feel bad for him because I'm just wanting to live my life, and my dad is just wanting to not lose a son, and we're both valid in our points of view and our viewpoints, but yet there's still dissonance. I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Michael, that's amazing. I was right, and also my dad was right. Wow.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the amount of times someone has to be in struggle to have like the emotional intelligence to get to that point. You have to be in struggle constantly. Shoot, dude, that gonna move us on, but wow. It is
Thanks, man.
it speaks to you as a character and as a person to have like, you know, both of these are true. Tell us how you feel about seeing white people talk about this movement like it's new.
I think for me, there's two sides. There's the side that I don't really allow people to see. It's the side I let my friends and family see, which is, fuck that, that's bullshit, fuck you, this shit's been going on for fucking years, how fucking dare you, blah, blah, blah. And while I think that side is so valid and so truthful, what I show people on social media and what I allow to be seen is a, okay, cool, that's really nice that you're now realizing it's a thing. It's been a thing for a long time, and let me explain why and how. And the reason I do this is what I learned this from Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle was talking about the Me Too movement, and he said that he's like, if women are wanting the Me Too movement, which I'm a huge supporter of, he said if we're wanting the Me Too movement to gain traction and work, we have to accept white men as allies, even if they're not perfect. Because the only way we're going to get through this is to have solidarity for everyone. And what was happening with the Me Too movement sometimes is that like men would come forward and then some people would be upset about something that they've done, and so then they would then shut down. And while I totally get calling out people because they should always, like, if you're doing something wrong, you should be called out, what we sometimes can unintentionally do is then squash their potential to be an ally and not use it as a learning opportunity. And that's a really dicey thing, and I get that. And I don't expect for women or anyone to forcibly have to do that, because it's a huge mental gymnastics thing you have to do in order to like accept that, like, you're not really getting it and you're not perfect and the stuff that you're saying is fucking me up, but I'm going to like channel that and process that in privately so that publicly I can be like, hey, this thing has been happening for a long time. Let me explain to you how you can be more helpful and stuff like that. And so I think me as a black person, I think I'm in a lucky, privileged opportunity where I'm on unemployment. You know, I don't have a job and I'm still getting paid. And I'm not having to pay rent. That's never my life. I'm always having to work. I'm always having to pay rent. So I'm in this lovely position where I don't have to do those things right now. And so for me, there's no reason why I cannot open myself as a resource for as long as I can. Because I can't do this forever. But for as long as I can, I want to do it. Because I've been Yo, Brian, ever since I did that from like noon to about midnight to 2 a.m., I'm answering calls and text and emails from people because so many people are interested and have questions and are like, hey, you know, we're doing this and this seems kind of racist and I'm wondering your opinion. Or, hey, I've always thought this was an issue. Can you expound upon this? Or somebody said this to me and I don't understand it. And it's, dude, it's fucking exhausting fucking work. Absolutely. But it's creating allies that then affect their own inner circle, and if we are all affecting our own inner circle, then we're progressing. And so, and I don't task, to be clear, I don't task any POC with this task. If I'm the only one in the world doing this, then so be it. I don't think it's our job as POCs to teach and to educate and to do this mental gymnastics. I am just in a very privileged position where I have the time to do that right now. And since I can't be on the front lines, which is what I want to do, which would be taking energy out of me, I'm wanting to put my energy out in this way. And it's so far has shown to be very helpful.
I've definitely heard a lot of sentiments from other people I interviewed and personal friends that are like, this shouldn't be on black people. It really shouldn't. Like, white people, Latinos know, like, yo, this is wrong. But the education, the onus still comes back. And it sucks. Yo, wanna ask that's the third question then. Tell us about when you first discovered white people treated you lesser than, or did you always know?
Yeah, so because you lovingly sent me the questions beforehand, I wrote a few things because there's a lot. I always knew. I was lucky and privileged enough where my mom and dad recognized that white school districts had higher education than black school districts. So my mom and dad always made sure that wherever we moved, I was able to go outside of my district and go to the all white schools. So I've always usually been the only black kid in my school. And what that meant is it gave me a lot of pressure to be very smart, to be very well spoken, to be very well rounded, because I'm in the example of my race when I'm the only one. I'm a lot of kids' first interaction with what a black person is. And so I always know that there was a separation, and there have been so many moments. The first girl I ever dated, she kissed me on the cheek and I was so excited and I ran inside to tell my mom and she was like, hey, don't tell anybody because, you know, like we're different races, so that's bad. And I was like, oh, great, that's a cool. I've been asked if I was in the Negro version production of shows. I've had the whole "you'd be a perfect boyfriend if you weren't black" thing. Stuff like this is always, and there's also things that happen subtly where this was not my experience at the American Shakespeare Center, but before I had been in American Shakespeare Center. I've auditioned for classical work constantly. I'm a hip hop artist and a lyricist, so words and rhythms I understand and I do them very well. And I was having such a huge hard time getting into classical work, and then I would look at the cast list and it was all white, and it's like, oh, you just don't see me as the standard. Like, white is the standard. When you think of Shakespeare, when you think of Romeo, I don't. It's very doubtful that you look at someone and think of my complexion when you think of Romeo. I don't think of Romeo as that. And so there's these also systemic issues with how we view things and how we've consistently viewed things that allow it for things to not change and for biases to be consistent. But I've always known, and I've always known, and it's been not easy. It's been a very, very tough thing. I had a teacher once. He told us all that he wanted us to everybody in the class to pick a classical monologue, and I told him, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. And he was like, well, why not? And I was like, well, the only thing I have is August Wilson for my classical like choices. And he's like, August Wilson is great. And I was like, yeah, I know it's great. That's why I picked the monologue from August Wilson to audition for this school, because I know people like you love that. But that's not what I want to do, and I'm not doing it. And that was aggressive and in front of the whole class, and I was definitely pissed. And he pulled me aside and he asked me to explain where I was coming from, and I was like, well, what do you think of when you think of the classics? And he said, Ibsen and Chekhov and Arthur Miller. And I said, cool, what do you think of when you think of the black classics? And he's like, well, August Wilson. I was like, yeah, and he was like, oh. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, imagine if you could only do Chekhov plays and that's it. So anytime you think of classical, only think of Chekhov, or only think of Ibsen, or only think of Arthur Miller. I was like, you have all of these choices. I have one. And yes, August Wilson is brilliant. There's no denying that. I fucking love his pieces. But when that's the only thing you're allowed to do, you develop resentment, you develop frustration, or you can. I don't say you do, because everybody processes things differently. You can develop this resentment and frustration and not want to be a part of those things. And he was like, oh, I didn't understand that. And so he allowed me to do whatever it is that I wanted to do. I can't remember what monologue I picked, but it was just like it was not a classical one. And moments like that are dope, because I was allowed to express my opinion and then stick with it and then explain and teach somebody else that didn't understand something, which is a silver lining.
Yo, tell us about a story of what it's like for a white person to normalize more black theater work besides the classical work, because it's an issue for like modern work too, really. Like Hairspray is a choice that theaters do, and you're like, okay, we're diverse. We did Hairspray.
It's what's always I was gonna avoid talking about this, but this is something that's important. I think that what'll happen with some theaters, and I'm gonna speak hypothetically, but this is a real world situation, is they will be like, okay, cool, we have an issue with diversity. So what do we need to do? We need to put on black plays, which is not a good sentiment, but not the doesn't fix anything. There was a time where I was in a school and we were having diversity problems, and so their solution was to do a musical with a predominantly black cast, and then three other plays with predominantly black casts. And what they didn't realize is, number one, they didn't talk to each other and realize that they all had such a huge diversity ask. But what I did, because I'm a numbers and systems person, is I counted how many minorities we had in the school, how many that were auditioning, and how many roles were needed. And out of a 7-show season, I counted and realized, 7-show season, I counted that there was no possible way that any of the minorities could be in any other shows that weren't about their race. And that is not fair. And it pissed me off because I was like, I didn't want, when I was saying things needed to be diverse, it wasn't that I needed shows about the black experience, which like those are great. Put me in like an Arthur Miller play. Like let me be in fucking Siegel or let me be in Doll's House. Like that's what I wanted. And there was a classical show that I wanted to be in, and I had to talk to all of the department heads and let them know, hey, you don't know this yet, but there's no way any minority can be in any other shows that not your shows. That's cute. You guys are gonna have to figure that shit out, but you can nix me from that fucking list because I want to be considered for this. And they're like, no, you can totally be considered. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, number wise, I actually can't be considered. And I'm bringing that to your attention. That's for you to kind of figure out and sort out. I don't really give a fuck how you sort that out. But what you won't be doing is considering me for these shows because I want this and I want the chance to get this. And take me presenting this as my gift to you. That has earned me the chance to do this show. And kind of what blows my mind is that if I didn't look at the numbers, I would have auditioned for this show, not gotten a call back, and thought like, oh, like maybe it was just, happenstance that I couldn't be in the show. When in actuality, the system was set up where there was no way I would have been able to get into that show regardless. And I think that's an example of overcorrection where we think of like, oh, if we want to fix diversity, we just need to put on a bunch of. Getting diversity is not something you can slap something on like a band-aid and it fixes it. It requires talks. It requires hearing what your community is saying. It is requiring that every community is going to be very different. There are people like me who it's not that they're wanting plays about their race. They're wanting to do shows about anything and it not be about their race. There are POCs that are wanting more shows about their race, and both of us are valid, and both of those communities should be served. But you have to listen and understand, and don't be so quick to be like, okay, how do we fix it? Let's just fucking chill. Like, take a breath. Listen to the people. They'll tell you what it is that they want. If you ask people, they'll tell you what it is that they want, and then work to implement that change. There's no quick fixes. There's no band-aid that you can slap on it and be, I'm progressive and I'm doing the right thing. We're all fucking up. The system is rigged. So let's hear what people have to say from all demographics. I'm talking LGBTQ, I'm talking Latina and Latino, I'm talking Black, I'm talking Asian American, everyone. Listen to all of that, hear what that is, and then slowly but surely start to implement things that change the system. I'm on a rant, but there's also this common misconception that, black and I'm not even just black, like shows that are about just race or just a certain ethnic group won't sell. And Hamilton shows that's bullshit. Parasite shows that's bullshit. Black Panther shows that's bullshit. Yeah, those are one's a play and the other are movies, but those are microcosms of what good storytelling can be, and it transcends race and it transcends identity, it transcends all of that. So you can't use that fallacy of, oh well, nobody's gonna watch it, because they will. And people also talk to me about production costs and, oh well, like we'll be taking a hit because like not as many people will watch it. And there are shows about race that the production costs are way less than the production cost of like an Ibsen play or a fucking Arthur Miller play. So take the hit with the production cost and use that to pay for the ticket sales and make this happen. Like, gone are the days where you can be like, oh well, there's just no way. There's a way, you're just not doing it. And I'm in a point in my life where I'm no longer gonna let that slide. I'm hitting theaters up and being like, hey, you should put me on your artistic board, because like, yeah, I'm young, but like I know what it is I'm doing, and I know what you're wanting to do right now is to be the good one and to look presentable and look progressive, and I can help you get that. But you're gonna need to pay me, and you're gonna need to pay the people around me, and you're gonna be able to make some changes. And this stuff is done, but I'm done with that shit, dude. Like, it's the system's broken in all facets, in government, in policies, and judge, and police. The system everywhere is systemic of racism, because you have to look at where everything started, and so we're gonna have to deconstruct the systems. And what I've now learned is my job as a person is to destruct the system that I know the best, which is theater. and my industry. And if I'm doing that, then I can go to sleep at night knowing that I'm trying to affect change in the community that I have.
Good shit, bro. I know we're like wrapping up. I saw a funny tweet you made, like
Uh-huh.
specifically about Black Panther. They were in post production on it, and there was someone on the post production team who quoted was like, "Yeah, bro, I'm so sorry, this is taking a while. The first cut is 4 hours long," and then people were quoting that, and they were like, "Just release that. Show me 4 hours of this."
4 hours? Where was that
Yeah,
cut? Please, fuck the Snyder cut. Give me 4 cut of fucking Black Panther. That movie,
yeah.
man, dude, that movie. I hope that every single race, person, gender identity gets their equivalent of that movie, because that movie for me as an African American was the first time I felt seen and heard in a movie, and also they presented African Americans not as lesser than but of high quality. Like Wakanda is center of peace and technological brilliance, and we don't, as African Americans, don't get that sort of pride. Yeah, like you think we're dope musicians, and yeah, you think we're dope athletes, but like the high intellectual accomplishments of Wakanda, and I pray that every single race and demographic gets that high acclaim moment that that movie gave for me, because it's amazing and I want everyone to have it. It's I'm very intersectional, where my philosophy that I'm always I'm always preaching is that like we are not free until we are all free. Like it's POCs right now. Fuck yeah, let's win that war. And then the second that shit's done, there's women, there's Latino, there's Asian American, there's immigrant. There's so much, and we aren't free until we're all free. I will never feel satisfied until we are all doing well. So.
Respect, dude. Yo, is there anything else you want to leave us on? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I thank you for interviewing me. It's an honor. I love you, and I love what you do, and I've always loved what you do. And to anyone listening and people that are doing this, thank you. I think that if you're a part of this movement in any way, shape, or form, if you're donating, if you're calling, if you're posting, if you're talking to your parents, which like is a thing we don't talk about often, but like that is one of the hardest things to do, is to confront the people that raised, love, support you, and let them know their shortcomings, even at risk of yourself. Thank you so much. This battle has been going on for years, and it is tough, but I don't want to dismiss how tough it is for the people that are just now learning about it. And to my POCs, y'all like rest, like rest when you need to, check out when you need to. This shit ain't new for us, and we're veterans to this shit. But veterans get tired. And so take the time and take the space that you need, and let the newbies and the people that are more energized because it's new for them take the front lines, because we don't have to be in the front lines as much. And if you want to and you have the energy, fuck yeah. And if you don't, there's no harm at all. Yeah,
Cool beans. Yo, I'm gonna stop us there. Michael, thank you so much.
of course, absolutely. I'm gonna pause the recording.